Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I'm your host, Mr. Kadish. Coming at you from the Las Vegas Podcaster Studios here in Las Vegas. And joining me today is our fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Matt Vader74, who is recovering from the plague. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Which one of you jerks started this Mr. Kadish nonsense? That's what I want to know.
It was him. He started it.
Remember when he was out in the chat, he said it's Mr. Kadish.
He said
no.
He demanded that we all call. That's not true. You said if we want to be here, we have to refer to you as Mr. Kadish.
Yeah.
That's it.
You guys don't understand the noggin on this dude. Anytime you give him a chance to swell it up a little bit more, he becomes unbearable. You don't have to live in an office space with him. Okay, knock it off. Everyone, knock it off. Because I can't deal with it much longer. Okay?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kadish. I'm sorry, Mr. Kadish.
Yes, Mexican Iron Man referred to me correctly. I just told you guys,
it's his fault.
This is my title. This is my title. And he's here. He's queer. He's our gender non-binary Latinx shield against all things woke and YouTube censorship. Ryan from the Popcast. How you doing, buddy?
Yes, I like to call it La Twinks.
Oh,
La Twinks. There you go. Covers all the bases. Yeah,
that's right.
Good.
How you doing, Brian?
Not bad, man. Could be better, but not bad. Still alive.
Like everyone's been having a rough month this July.
It's a shitty month. Oh my god.
Terrible.
You don't want me to get into it. I'm being polite when I say not bad. Okay, it's been fucking bad. It's been real bad. God damn it.
And he is E.L. James' biggest fan, Crimson Rogue. How you doing, buddy? Welcome back to the show.
It's funny you mentioned E.L. James because someone tagged me, reminding me that her new book came out and said, "Hey, Crimson, it's review time." And E.L. James was tagged in that and liked it because she has no idea what I do. Because I actually have her book right here. I'm not quite 200 pages in. I'm not quite 200 pages in. The plot hasn't started yet. I don't like this book very well. She is not going to appreciate me when I finally do get a review out.
It's funny because I follow your tweets, or I call them Zeets now. And you're always just talking about, like, when is the story of this book going to start? I'm like halfway through the book and the story hasn't even begun. But is she still writing on her BlackBerry? I don't even know.
God, you wouldn't be able to tell. It feels like she is. There's no substance in her style. I hate it.
Oh, so she's probably a friend of Grace Randolph.
Probably.
Probably.
All right.
But it's good to have you back on the show, Crimson. We always love having you on, and you're one of the few guests that actually bothers to actually read stuff. So that's exciting. But Odin from OMB's movie review channel. I don't even know what to call your channel anymore. I'm so used to calling it Odin's movie blog. But,
I know.
It's OMB reviews. Whatever. How's your shelf doing?
Oh, the shelf. It's still fragile. So, be careful around it, please. Don't.
Oh, I remember that clip. I saw that. It was on Friday Night Tights, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that was hilarious. The timing was perfect.
I mean, because it was funny because in the moment I was so just frustrated because I was like, oh my gosh. Because I remember last summer was the summer I put them all in alphabetical order and how much of a pain it was. And so that's the whole thought I had was, oh gosh, I got to put them back in order. This is going to be awful. But no, I'm doing fine. The shelf is okay. Just need to get all that stuff figured out at some point. I start school next week. Yay me. We have meetings and then in 2 weeks we have actual students. So summer is pretty much donezo for me. But It's funny that you messed up the channel name because I was on Carrie Smith's channel the other day and she actually dead named me by calling me Ode's Movie Blog. So I was offended.
How dare she?
I know.
Yeah, you're like Twitter. You're just rebranding left and right. It's
yeah, but there's been like 2 or 3 years since I rebranded.
Yeah, that should tell you something about how rebranding works.
I know, right?
Never works out the way you want it to.
Yeah, good luck, Elon.
All right, we'll be talking about that in a second. But I would like to give some shout outs to all the wonderful people who have showed up in our chat this morning. We got Danny's mom, Penny. How you doing, Penny? She's always the first one here, last one to leave.
I'm going to start calling her a Walmart greeter because she says hello to everybody when they come in. It's really funny.
I think she's more like our den mom.
Something. She's the channel mother. Yeah,
channel mother. There you go. Anthony Mark, good to see you, sir. Danny the Dork Knight, we acknowledge you.
No, we don't.
Cocho Dragon, Mexican Iron Man, the Astronerdboy, one of our salty Saturday superstars. Good to see you, sir. Gavin Blackburn, the Super Sticker Master, is in the chat. We got Jeremy Turner, the Joker's voice, one of our regulars and our mods. Let's see here. Who else do we got? We got Max Mercer, and that looks like that is all. Chappie, Nick Clark, Crimson Rogue is in the chat. Good to see you, Crimson. Yeah, long time no see.
Do you say Chappie's in the chat?
Chappie,
I am Chappie. I am alive. That's all I can think of when I hear Chappie.
Yes, Kenneth LaRoque and Theodore Pinnock. Good to see you all. Thank you all for being here this morning. And real quick, let us get our overlay on the screen so that we can give shout outs to all the wonderful people who give us money. Our Saturday superstars, Scotty Dub, Bob Dorsey, and the Astronerdboy, two of which are in the chat. I don't know what happened to Scotty Dub. He hasn't been on our show lately, but always appreciated. Loyalist, Joker Voice, and Mexican Iron Man, both of whom are here, and both of whom already dropped super chats.
I know.
That's what makes them loyalist. They're fantastic. We got our super thankers, Backyard TARDIS, and JT Gunn, though the Astronerdboy has been dropping a lot of super thanks lately, so we appreciate that as well. And our top channel contributor, Scotty Dub, who has no one's broken his record yet. He's still up there at the $500 mark, where he dropped $500 in super chats in one sitting. Amazing. We really appreciate the support, guys. You're one of the reasons why we keep doing this live stream. We really appreciate it. Yeah, enough of the housekeeping stuff. Let's get into the chats. So we have our first topic today, which is Twitter rebrands as X. Now, I've been very vocal about my disapproval of this rebrand. And if he was going to rebrand, I wish he'd chosen something other than X because it's so generic and it's hard to verbify a single letter. But apparently, so the rebrand has rolled out. Everyone's apps have been updated. And now tweeting is called Zeeting, Xeeting. Tweets are now Zeets. And I like Twitter's still Twitter, but like it feels wrong now. It just doesn't feel like Twitter. But I want to get everyone's take on this because we had this really interesting article from the New York Times where it talks about the erasure of Twitter to be replaced by the everything app X that has been kind of Elon's thing all along. And you know, when I tweeted my I should say zeeted, when I zeeted my
so dumb.
My hesitation about this rebranding effort, a lot of people were like, because you know, I basically said like, look, if you wanted to make an X app, it would have been much cheaper just to do a startup and grow it, you know, naturally and stuff like that. I mean, I think a lot of people would have jumped on just because it would have been Elon's thing. But instead, he spent an exorbitant amount of money for Twitter, and now it's not even Twitter anymore. And he's got a lot of people came up to me and they're like, well, he paid for all the users. He paid for the 400 million users of Twitter. I was like, yeah, but I mean, like, most of those were bots. You know, how much money did he really need to spend on this stuff to get followers? So I just want to go around the panel and get everyone's thoughts. I know not everyone is as big on Twitter as I am. And I don't mean in terms of following. I just mean like in terms of like how much I enjoy using the app. But I wanted to get Odin's take on this. Odin, what is your feeling on the rebranding of Twitter?
Well, it's one of those mixed things because I understand he has this desire to create the X everything app, and obviously he had already bought X and you know combined X and Twitter together, and so we all kind of like people who were in the know saw this kind of coming down the road. I just think it's a bad move because it almost reminds me a little bit about HBO Max and how they dropped HBO. But to a maybe even a greater extent, like one of the issues is that if he's trying to push X, he's trying to push Zeets and everything. It's not even just the number of people he was buying access to. It was also the cultural impact, right? When you say I'm on Twitter, when you say I've tweeted something or someone tweeted this or retweeted that, that has now become a part of the lexicon. And so to try to rebrand that, you're trying to take away basically something that has been a part of the culture for years and years and years. And so over time, could you eventually see a change happen? It's possible. But if even someone like me, every time I talk about Max, automatically say HBO Max, because it's just it's something where that's the only real distinguishing factor about it, because anything can be Max. There's a ton of Maxes that could exist, right? But there's only one HBO. Whereas with with Twitter as well, when you are rebranding it to a single letter, okay, X can mean a lot of different things. And so I think he would have been better to rebrand it as Twitter X, because then you're still keeping the name. It can still be tweets, but you're also making it very clear saying this is just going to be a part of a much broader X platform. And I think that would have been the best way to like be able to kind of find that balance between the two. So again, he's very wealthy. He knows what he's doing most of the time. I just don't think that the attempted rollout that's going on right now is as effective as it probably could have been.
Yeah, he's got SpaceX. He could have done Twitter X. Like everything could have been like its own thing, but have like the X brand, just to kind of ties it all together. I feel like that probably would have been a better strategy than going like full X. You never go full X.
Exactly.
But I want to toss this to Krimson, because Krimson, he's on Twitter. He's constantly dropping tweets about how terrible L. James is. Kyle, do you think it's a little bit too soon for him to be doing this rebrand? Because I feel like he needs to get Twitter's house in order and get everything kind of like working properly before he makes this jump. But he's just like, screw it, let's do it.
It does seem a little hasty, and I have to wonder if he has an army of yes men saying, yes, boss, this is a good idea, as opposed to, what are you doing? You're destroying a brand name. I've never been one to like jump on the bandwagon of Elon Musk is going to screw up all of Twitter and all that stuff. But the longer he goes on and does this kind of stuff, the harder it gets to defend him. Like I feel like to try to tie off of what Odin said, if he had rebranded it Twitter as presented by X or something like that, then like where X is more of an oversight umbrella company that just owns everything, you would have been able to keep the cultural impact of Twitter, because there was actually some degree of cleverness in its name. Because a little bird told me that this, or whatever tweets you put on Twitter. It just feels like he's rushing forward too quickly with a lot of this. Maybe he does have a goal in mind, but he's not patient enough to get there naturally. He's trying to force things through as quickly as possible. I mean, how long has he actually owned this, and how many changes has Twitter gone through by this point? I don't want to blindly condemn him just because it's fashionable, but at the same time, this really does start to feel like a bull in a china shop situation.
Yeah, I personally have defended Elon throughout this process, because I think like the overarching idea behind Elon Twitter, that it's a free speech platform and that it's an open area for discussion and people aren't going to get banned for sharing wrong think and stuff like that. I think that's a good thing, but he has kind of I think jumped the gun a couple times on ideas that would have been better if he had taken a little bit more time to think it out. I just remember after he bought it, he was like, this platform is going to go bankrupt in 2-3 months if I don't do something right now. And I feel like this rebranding effort, before the company is actually healthy again, might be a bad idea. Brian, I know that we're all on Twitter, or I should say X, and we all enjoyed the platform, I should say. But especially with Meta bringing out its Twitter competitor Threads recently, what do you think? What do you think of Elon's strategy to be like, okay, well, we're going to change things up now, even though we just had this huge competitor drop?
Yeah, no, I do think it's a horrible idea. And one of the funniest memes I've ever seen was Elon Musk tweeted, the new name for Twitter is X with the logo. And then there was a reply from a fake Mark Zuckerberg account that said, the new name for Threads is Twitter with the Twitter logo.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I laughed so hard. I mean, here's the deal. Elon Musk has been, until the X thing, an extremely positive change for Twitter. And I know there's people out there that don't think that. But as someone who's been using Twitter for nearly 10 years, I can tell you it's been a positive change. Not only, I mean, just the undo button, just that alone. If only that one thing costs $40 billion, I'll take it. Jesus. The edit button. These are things that we've been asking for a long, long time. Not being throttled because you're not following whatever the group think is on Twitter. Actually being able to see what you're writing, regardless of what your opinions are. Free speech is definitely back on Twitter, and that's a great thing. That's great. But from a business perspective, I'll tell you, deleting one of the most popular brands to ever exist, ever.
It's a global brand.
It's a global brand. Deleting a global brand. It's got to be like a top 20 of all time historic brands ever, easily. Dropping that for the letter X, I'm trying to think like an Elon Semp. Like how would I paint this in a good? There's no way. This is only a bad idea. Everything else he's done is awesome, but this was really a poor idea. You know, there was this one time about 5 or 6 years ago, our company, our day job company, was selling T-shirts on a company called Buy.com. You guys remember this? There was a company out there called Buy.com. It was actually pretty popular. Because I'll tell you why. The domain name was Buy.com. Every boomer in the world can type in Buy.com. And there was this Japanese company called Rakuten. Rakuten. I think it means like prosperity or happiness or something, and whatever. I'm not sure what it means. But they came in and they bought Buy.com. And you're like, that's cool. It makes sense. They're gonna buy this contender in the marketplace, right? Then they immediately changed the name for Buy.com to Rakuten.com.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you gotta, and I asked myself that question, I'm like, why the F would they do that? That makes no sense. They bought a website and then changed the name. You got to think they bought the website because of the name. But then they changed the name immediately. So they did buy it for the... So Elon Musk, he bought a website. It's one of the top all-time global brands.
Mm-hmm.
He made all these great changes. Pissed off a lot of folks. And then immediately, as soon as a competitor arises that can compete with Twitter, he's like, let me delete Twitter. And I can't see... I agree with Krimson. It should have been like if he wants X, he wants the X app, right? The everything app. I get that. That's a cool idea. He wants to compete with Weibo or whatever crap they have in China.
WeChat.
Okay. WeChat. Thank you. So how about this? I call it Weibo. And do this. Exactly what Krimson said. Call it. Start a whole new app called X, and Twitter is part of that app, right? Twitter by X. Like Facebook by Meta or Threads by Meta. You can have your X, but why would you remove Twitter? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, dude.
It's now brand X. Just like
imagine if we all got Gary to sell us his channel. We bought Nerdrotic and then immediately called it Shithead.
Wow.
It might actually get even more popular. Yeah.
Were you watching Shithead the other day? Because I know I was.
All I'm saying is, like, it's a brand, though, right? It's a brand. Like,
well, what's even crazier is Krimson, like, it's part of the verbiage, right? Like Twitter is both a noun and a verb that's used in like language, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like the idea that he's going to come along and like change that, like basically like you can't say tweeting anymore because Twitter doesn't exist. So like, what do you call it?
X.
Yeah, I'm not ever gonna call anything an X or an Eeks or whatever.
Well, you are gonna do it because
I'm not.
That's what it's called.
No, they're still called tweets,
and it's going very
sorry.
well.
The website itself, there's still the option to, and I quote, retweet. No one's figured out what to call that yet.
I just put a link in our chat to follow us at twitter.com/salty_nerd. So it's
Well, you're
not
such a
X,
boomer.
Well, he
it's-
did
it's,
buy X.com, so it
Yeah.
could be a matter of who knows when it could.
here's
eventually
the one thing.
No,
everybody's
X.com does
forgetting.
go to Twitter, but
Yeah.
it forwards to Twitter. It's not even a mask. He has one of the biggest tech companies on the planet, and they can't even just actually permanently forward the domain. It forwards like the way you would forward a GoDaddy domain
it-
name.
You guys
It-
are
it
forgetting
feels like-
something.
GoDaddy.
You guys are forgetting something. Elon Musk is the richest guy in the world, and he's a weirdo. Okay, he's a weirdo. He's gonna do whatever the hell he wants, and he doesn't care what anybody else has to say about it. X is his brand. He has a child named X. You guys, his
Yeah,
first
that's
name
true.
is X. He named it after his kid. It's crazy. This guy.
Yeah, he's really into the X.
He's
It's
really
very
into the
odd.
X. He has an X fetish. Either
Well,
gonna have-
PayPal was supposed to be called X.com,
And
his two partners were like,
Yeah.
"No, we're not doing that."
and in the end, it really doesn't matter because you're either going to be over on one of the other sites that nobody uses, including Threads, or you're going to stay here on Twitter X, whatever the hell we're going to call it, and
Right.
move on with our lives. It doesn't matter what he calls this thing. I
Yeah.
get you're all like, oh, the marketing, blah blah blah. It doesn't.
Yeah, we're all
matter.
still staying
We're
here.
all
That's for
still
sure.
here. We're sitting here. We're talking about it.
Dude, Threads been out for a month and it's already dying somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, because
I already
it's not-
deleted the app.
because it's not
Yeah.
Twitter. It's not
not
X.
Twitter, yeah.
He's got everybody already. He could call it the Fruben Floppen Flieger Flop,
Right.
and nobody would. It wouldn't matter.
Watch
I
your
think he
mouth.
should.
The-
I think he should seriously rebrand it to shithead.
Whatever.
Right.
I think that would.
You know what you should do?
Yeah.
You know what? No,
I just
not a
shitted
name.
this morning. I
No,
shat
not
this morning.
I said, not a
Did
name.
you check out my
He should just
last
rebrand
night?
it to the entire name of the company should just be the poop emoji.
I shitted this out last night.
I shat this.
Yeah.
Hey,
Have you
can you
seen- have you
hey, can you
seen this?
reshit this for me? Reshit this for me.
Can you
We shut
reshit this for me?
I think the thing to consider is that as divided as people are these days, you're always going to have people like, and we saw this when Elon took over Twitter. You had people who are pro Elon, anti Elon. We live in a very divisive time. It's a matter of fact. That being said, I have yet to see a single person actually defend this X rebrand. No one is saying this is a good idea. Everyone is saying, screw that, I'm calling it Twitter forever.
And a lot of people will.
Vader, to get to Brian's point, like, I feel like this rebrand was terribly rushed because you'd think that they'd take their time, that they would set up all the redirects, that they would migrate stuff over, that they would make it so that the transition from Twitter to X would be seamless. But it was just like, I feel like Elon said, like, hey, we're doing this weekend. Just put up the
Yep.
logo.
That's what he did.
Yeah. And kind
And
of
that-
jumping what Matt was saying, what Vader was saying is, yes, it's not going to have I think it's a bad idea, but by saying it's a bad idea, I don't think that he's going to lose millions of, users or anything like that. I don't think it's going to have really any impact whatsoever on it. It's just more of like, I just don't think it's a good idea in general.
It's just going to be, oh, this is stupid. I don't like this name. I'm going to go over to Threads, and then 12 hours later, here you are back on your account. It's just
Yeah,
shut
Or
up.
like me, it's a
doesn't
dumb
matter.
idea, but I'm still going to use it because
Right.
We're
Right.
starting our own Mastodon server. Everyone come over there.
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting because like you can see coming down the line, like Elon has a lot of plans for this. So he's already rolled out monetization for tweets. So if people see an ad in your replies section, like you get rev share on that. People are already making thousands of dollars just for tweeting. He's got a subscription service where people can actually, it's kind of like memberships for Twitter. He's got plans to roll out video. He's going to be bringing back Periscope for like the live streaming portion of Twitter. He really wants it to basically be an all-in-one everything app where people like you can pay for stuff with the X app. He's going to be incorporating Dogecoin into it in some sense. It could be instant NFTs as well. Like he's just got plan after plan after plan, and it all starts with like the rebrand to X. But like, I don't know, man. Like it just doesn't feel like natural to me. It feels too rushed. And I don't think people are ready for it. I mean, like the big thing was the blue check mark thing, right? Where he basically, opened up the blue check to the masses, and every, legacy blue check was like, "Fuck this, I'm out of here. I'm going to Threads."
And here they are back already. Most of them.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting. Like, I appreciate Elon's ambition, but I'm not quite sure about the execution of this so far. Like, what would Twitter have to do to really turn off its users? Just want to ask the panel in general.
Change actually the if you actually change the visuals, if you change where things are on the site, that will drive people away. Because it kind of reminds me a little bit about whenever Facebook would have like a massive redesign, it would be like people would say, what the heck? I have no idea where things are. And over time, they realized, oh, we need to do very small changes over time. And then that way there's not nearly as much like kind of reaction. But also, how many people are going to be creating like Google Chrome extensions where it's like, bring back the bird? You know how there's always extensions whenever any of these social media sites go through changes. There's all these things, like for instance, the dislike button, right? You can add these things back. So that's why I said, like, he can push X all he wants. I just don't think, like, unless
a buddy of mine already did that. One
Yeah.
of my programming friends in Nepal, he already made a Chrome extension for just changing all of Twitter back the way it was before. He did it like in like 2 hours too. It didn't take very much work.
Yeah. The only thing that would actually stop people from using it or using it as much would be if you move a lot of things around quickly. Like that would be a disruptor. Whereas changing the name and the logo, most people say that's stupid, but it doesn't change how I use it.
Yeah, all he did was it's all it does is modify the CSS client side, and it changes the name, the logo, and the color scheme. That's it. It's pretty funny. They didn't really do much.
Yeah.
I need
we do have it.
I need somebody, and it's probably been done already, but I need somebody to go out there and redo the WWE's Degeneration X theme with Elon and a bunch of Twitter X stuff.
Well, already
Are
all
you
the
ready?
DMX memes have been dropping. X gonna give it to you, you know, all that stuff. I like Brand X too. I think Brand X, just the whole generic thing that, you know, you can't get copywritten over, is appropriate. But you know, we have a new
I'm sorry.
CEO.
Sorry, quick thing, Curtis. You can't copyright his logo because it's a Unicode symbol, which means that any one of us can take the logo they're using right now and put it on anything and sell it without any legal repercussions.
Let's do it.
You can't trademark an X. You can't. It's not possible.
Salty Nerd X.
I own 50 trademarks, so you can't trademark an X.
If it's a specific design of the X, though, can you like do that because it's a
yes,
logo
except
versus
for
the letter?
he's using the Unicode,
Version
the
of the
actual
X. Okay.
Unicode X. That is a worldwide. It's a worldwide symbol. It's a bad idea.
So are you going to make an X
So-
shirt? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's what's happening right now. Go to mixies.com/was Twitter.
Wait, so I could go get a black hat and just put a white X right here.
Yeah,
on it?
that's a public domain symbol. It's Unicode. It's part of text. It's like every computer has that option.
Isn't that like a Malcolm X hat? I don't want to get punched in the face or something. You know?
You can't trademark an X. It's got to be very significant to trademark an X. It can't just be a single letter like that. You just can't.
Is there going to be anyone out there that just refers to Twitter as 10? From this point going forward?
Roman numeral 10.
Yo, 10 me out, bro.
That's gonna
remember
be kind of
someone
funny if Elon comes out. I don't know what this X stuff is all about. The name of the place is 10. Okay, not X,
Perfect 10.
10.
Well, now Brian has me wanting to see like someone making a Twitter clone called Shithead, and its symbol is the poop emoji, right? Instead of the X, and then like you say, like I reshitted this morning. I shat this out this afternoon.
Yeah,
You know, I think it'd be perfect. I think it'd be absolutely perfect. Cat turd needs to get on that.
And instead of liking something, you hit the shit emoji.
Yeah,
You shit on it. So
You
instead of
shit on
liking
it,
it, you're shitting on it. Yeah.
Crapped all over
I'm
that
shitting,
thing.
I'm shitting on this post. Yeah,
Boy.
demonetized for foul language.
Yeah, in like the first like 10 minutes too. Good job,
Sonia,
guys.
he just named it after his kid. That's all he did. It's just that's all.
His kid's name is Shithead.
No, his kid's name is X to the third factor of Y. Or some stupid thing.
But you know, we do have that new CEO of X, and you know, a lot of people have been criticizing her about some of the censorship things, because like there are still things going on where people are getting like their accounts suspended on Twitter for speaking their minds, and it's supposed to be the free speech platform. So I'm thinking that, like, if anything, that's still the danger of that Twitter faces, where like they might just start censoring stuff again and driving people away from the app. But where are you going to go, right?
That's the name of his kid. That
Okay.
right there. It's
Now, is it
insane.
pronounced X or is it?
I have no idea how it's pronounced. I have no idea. But you know, that should tell you everything you need to know about why he named the site X, because he's a freak. He's a weirdo. And he's gonna do whatever he wants. So you know, whatever.
He's a
Doesn't
super
matter.
freak.
Super
Super
freak.
freak.
Super
Freak,
freak.
yeah.
Exactly.
Dun,
All right, guys,
dun,
we
dun,
got-
dun.
We got some super chats we need to get to here. Real quick. Mexican Iron Man for $9.99. This is my regular weekly protection contribution money to Mr. Kadish,
God damn
the
it.
Mangold Slayer. See? Some people get it, Vader. Some people get it.
I blame Mike. It's his fault.
All right. Now we got $20 from the Joker's voice. Lucasfilm, hey, instead of just ripping off a Luke story and insert Ahsoka, let's also have a series about the droid humper Lando. Story group, yes. Honestly, if no news comes from Lucasfilm, it's good news. Hashtag
True.
keep talking. We're going to be talking about the Lando story in a bit, but yeah, it's just Lucasfilm's so creatively bankrupt, man. Like, it's sad what happened
Mhm.
to Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy's regime.
Mhm.
All right, we got Bob Dorsey, one of our Saturday superstars, for $30. Good to see you, Bob. On the off chance you talk about Star Trek, just remember the Klingon lie is bullshit, but Mbenga's lie is okay. Plus, how much freaking insubordination is allowed on a Star Trek ship?
Bro, murder's allowed, so I
Not
don't think
talk- not
inspiration
talking
is a
about it.
problem anymore.
Dang.
It's a wild
I'm
thing.
done. Star Trek broke me. I'm out. Don't
Yeah,
care.
this last episode actually, like, people don't realize how bad it really was. It really sort of destroyed the fabric of what made Star Trek Star Trek.
I'm
it's
done.
crazy.
Do you guys remember when Spock was court-martialed for stealing the Enterprise?
No, that didn't happen.
Those were the days.
That was a different
Like,
universe.
they literally know that Mbenga killed that guy in cold blood, and no one gives a crap. It's so crazy to me.
Well,
I've never been more out on anything in my life than I am now on
so
Star
nuts.
Trek. It's so sad to me, but whatever. I'm gonna leave that to you, Brian. That's you and Shane's thing now.
Thanks,
All
man.
you. All
Thanks,
you.
bro.
You're keeping the franchise
I
afloat, man.
appreciate it. Yeah, we're keeping it going. Whoa.
Show it some more, man. Show it some more.
Let me ask you a question. How many Star Trek videos you think you're gonna see on our main channel the next
I
couple
hope
months?
none. I hope none.
Yeah. Let me look at my production schedule. Ready? Nothing.
Ah, I thought it was.
We don't
10.
have a. We had several Star Trek videos planned. All of them are gone, replaced with other stuff that we don't even know is going to do very well, but we don't care. We don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I stopped watching season 2 of Strange New Worlds after the second episode, and I've been so happy. I don't feel like I've missed anything.
Oh,
That's a
we are
musical
we
episode,
we
right?
are doing a history of Star Trek Voyager, but that doesn't count.
Oh, there
what
is
am I-
a musical episode coming out next week. It's basically a Buffy the Vampire Slayer ripoff of their
I was gonna
musical
say.
episode.
There's been some
Yeah.
good musical episodes of shows before. Everyone's been
Oh,
waiting for
man.
Star Trek to do it, right?
Well, do you remember
Anybody?
when they,
No. Oh,
remember
okay.
last season when they did the little girls fantasy storybook episode
Mm.
where they all became like fantasy
That's-
characters from like the children's fairy tale?
That sounds like a 90 like that sounds like a Smallville plot.
Basically.
That's a Smallville plot right there.
I got to be
people
honest. I'm completely lost with all of this. I haven't watched anything Star Trek related since like
You're not missing
keep-
anything.
keep
first
yourself-
time movies.
Keep yourself pure, okay? Just
I
don't
feel
pollute your mind.
like I'm on a shoreline watching a very expensive ship burn and sink into the
That's
ocean.
exactly what you're doing. One of my greatest joys the last month has just been watching Shane over on the podcast just slowly fall off.
slowly
his cliff.
degenerate. Yeah.
Just fall off his cliff. I mean, it has been.
He's
Yeah.
being black pilled episode by episode as to what's
Yeah, it's
happening
really funny.
with Star Trek.
That's
It
great.
really
Like,
is amazing. Right?
you can
Brian,
take
you need to do a super cut.
Yeah, I
Of him
do.
slowly-
Yeah.
slow-
I want to go
slowly,
back like
changing.
6 months and like every show just take like a few frames out of every show and just show his face being like,
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I know.
It's just his soul dies inside.
Well, what's even
poor
funnier
guy's
is,
been watching Star Trek since he was like 3 years old, bro.
what's even funnier is that we're coming off of like what's arguably the best modern Star Trek show
Yeah.
in recent memory, which was Picard season 3, and you just compare and contrast it to what the direct they're giving us with Strange New Worlds, and it's like night and day. It made it even worse. I think if Strange New Worlds had come out before Picard season 3, there might be a different reaction to it. But it's just like people need to stop hiring Akiva Goldsman to do stuff for them. That's what
we would be much more forgiving if it came out before Picard. But we saw what we should be getting with Picard season 3, and we're all like, "Oh, okay." Oh no.
Wait, you can make good Star Trek, but you give us this.
Yeah, you don't need to do all the things you've been doing since 2015, but we're still doing them anyways. Okay. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. All right. Still on the Star Trek train. Dinks for £5. What are your thoughts on the AI generated trailer Genesis? I haven't seen it.
I don't know what that is.
No, me neither.
Neither have I.
There's a good chance it's better than whatever's currently
Somebody put
playing.
a link in the chat.
All right. Well, while that's going on, let's call up our other salty superstar, the guy that we just called out for not being on the show all that often, but he's our top contributor, Scotty Dub for $49.99.
Wow.
Thank you so much,
Nice.
Scotty Dub. Proof of life. Had to pull over in the midst of a hot and muggy drive here in the Mid-Atlantic to pass my best wishes to this August panel. Since Elon made social media fun again, I'll give him 10 or X. So let it be written.
Nice.
I still
I kind of want to call it 10.
I kind of want to call it shithead. I think that's too perfect to pass up. But I also want to apologize to Astronerdboy because last Saturday he super chatted us and we forgot to read his super chat.
We did.
I
Totally
kind of like passed over it. But shout out to Astronerdboy. Really appreciate him. He's the third leg on our Salty Superstar panel. Really appreciate all you guys being here and all the support you give us. But let's talk about Hollywood and their inability to adapt stuff. Like it just seems to be getting worse and worse in terms of like Hollywood being able to take beloved properties and adapt them to the screen. We've had so many examples. Like the most recent one is The Witcher, right? Like they just butchered The Witcher. We also have The Wheel of Time. Speaking about butchering stuff, like any Wheel of Time fan, you're going to look at that TV show and be like, what the hell is this? We've got the Meg movies. Jude still hasn't recovered from that one. We've had multiple talks with Krimson about it. Like they basically looked at the book and they were like, nah, we're just going to take the shark and do our own thing with it. And we just have example after example after example of Hollywood taking beloved properties like Cowboy Bebop, stuff like that, and just completely ignoring the source material and going in their own direction. And it's almost always 100% of the time the wrong direction. It's almost always bad. So I wanted to ask the panel about this in terms of like, why do they think that Hollywood can't get adaptation right? So Krimson, I want to jump to you because you have a whole channel about the book was better. It's basically about adaptation and stuff like that. So why is it that Hollywood is just so terrible at taking a roadmap that's already printed out for them with a built-in fan base and just saying, nah, screw it, we're going to do our own thing?
If you had asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have said it's just a matter of timing because you've got, this much book, but this much time to actually fit into a 2-hour movie. So they've got to make some essential cuts. They've got to get rid of some characters. They've got to remove some subplots and the like. It's all just going to be part of the process. Sometimes it's going to be okay. Sometimes it's going to suck entirely. Very rarely is it an improvement. But these days, it feels like the writers who are making these are too busy inserting themselves or their own ideals at the cost of the story itself. There is a very particular art when you're writing, and I'm trying to go through this myself, writing my own books. You cannot make your ideals completely infallible. You have to be able to actually challenge yourself, challenge your ideals, and try to balance both sides of the argument. Speaking of Star Trek, that's something that they used to do exceptionally well, where you would have a difficult political situation and you would say, okay, here's side A, here's side B. Both have some particular points that they want to raise. But these days it's all about, okay, here's side A, side B is literally Nazis. And then you go from there.
Literally,
It is not a fun way to actually write a story or engage with an idea. And as a result, we've seen property after property getting taken down by writers who swear they know better when they have no life experience themselves.
You know, Vader, we had lots of conversations about the adaptation of Anne Rice's stuff, where basically we had an Interview with a Vampire TV show, which completely changed so many elements of the books. And then you had the Mayfair Witches, which basically it was like a completely different show from the books. And I know Jude was particularly disappointed because she was like, she loved those books. And she was like, why can't they just take the books and put those on the screen? Why do they have to make all these changes? And especially with Interview with the Vampire, because they made that show, not that there's anything wrong with this, but extremely gay, like way gayer than anything that Anne Rice put in the books, I think. So the question becomes, it's like, why do they keep doing this? Especially when they know that like they're alienating a large portion of their built-in fan base. You're muted, Vader.
Well, I think it's like you said, you know, these modern writers that are out there on the picket lines and stuff right now, they all have this thing where they think they want to write things based on old product for a modern audience, right? And to them, their modern audience, they think we're all a bunch of woke weirdos out here that need to have all of their weird wokeness inserted into everything that's on TV. And I think the message is being put out there that we don't. You know, the Aldine thing, you know, the song, the Bud Light stuff, the Target stuff, this stuff is coming around to where I think there's a message that's being sent that we're tired of your nonsense and your inserts and all of your weird perverted shit, for lack of a better word. You know, I think they're just trying to insert way too much of that stuff into these new shows that they're putting in there. It's everywhere. It's in our comic books. It's in our movies. It's in our television. You know, all these people are out there on strike right now, right? On the picket lines, the actors and the writers and everything. I don't sense a lot of support from the real world for any of these people. In fact, I kind of sense the opposite. I sense that people want kind of a reset, for lack of a better word. I just think things have to change, and I think people are just tired of all this weird stuff being inserted into these properties that we like. And yeah, it's like you said, like the vampire movies, the Anne Rice stuff. It's like Anne Rice, she was progressive. She had some weird stuff in those books, but they took the Interview with the Vampire stuff and completely changed it. Everything from the races of the characters, they made them just completely
They're
super gay,
flaming
I guess.
gay, bro. I
Flaming,
watched the
flaming.
entire series. They are
Yeah,
flaming.
I
I did not expect that level of gay.
right. I couldn't get past the second episode. I said, this isn't an Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, it was so
you
gay.
know, and it's in all the series out there. You can't get away from it. And it makes it hard. It makes it hard to want to support things that, you know, have been changed so much from the source material just for, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, just for virtue signaling and stuff, you know, so it makes me not want to watch anything of these new things.
You know, I'd also say that it's not even necessarily about injecting like politics or propaganda into it. Like Kyle, with the Wheel of Time adaptation, they made it a point to try to be like, who's the dragon? That was the mystery. It could be a man, it could be a woman, but everyone who's read the books, it's like, we know who the dragon is.
It has to be a man according to the lore of the books.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so like that alone, like that change right there, where they were trying to make it the central mystery of this first season, like everyone who, like the built-in fan base for the book, they're like, what the hell is this? Why are we wasting so much time on like who the actual dragon is? We all know it's Rand. So like,
Couldn't
why?
it be like a winter wyvern, which would be female?
Maybe, but here's the thing, right? Like I don't care about making characters gay or inserting certain political like messaging into into movies and TV shows, as long as it makes sense for the story. But when you set the story aside and it becomes a piece of political propaganda, or it becomes like just dumbed down to the point where you're like, who the hell is writing this thing? That's when it gets bad for me. So Odin, I'm going to throw this to you. Do you think, how much of this do you think is just Hollywood egomaniacs trying to put their stamp on better work and claiming, and kind of like a Game of Thrones style with Benioff and Weiss, that they were the true visionaries and creative brilliance behind the success of these shows, as opposed to the actual like source material being the thing that was actually of quality and actually good?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of factors that have led to such a huge kind of increase in this. The biggest one, I think, is that many of these people that are now in these positions of power are just activists, like pure and simple. They're just activists. And so in their mind, all they care about is that message, whatever that message might be, whether it be political, whether it be economic, whatever it is that they're trying to push, that is what their sole focus is. And so that is what their obsession becomes. And so that's what basically, it's think of this as their new starting point, right? An activist starting point is, okay, how do we get this message into a story? Whereas an actual genuine writer who's just writing to try to tell good stories starts off with, okay, who's my character? Where's the character going to go? What is going to impact the character? And so it's that starting off point that I think has the biggest differentiation over whether we get good stories or bad stories. And it really comes down to why we're getting so many bad stories and so many political and just garbage stories these days, because the message is much more important than the actual story itself. And then also another part of it, I think, that is having some impact is, because you hear a lot of people nowadays calling many things woke, for instance. And there are some cases where it's really not, right? We are a lot more sensitive to, if there's diversity casting, for instance, we immediately question it, saying, okay, I don't know if this is being done for, genuine reasons, this was the best person for the part, or whether it was, hey, we need to get this person of this race or not, right? We don't trust them.
But
and I think a big part of why we don't trust them is because we have now more access to them than we've ever had before, right? It used to be you never heard about what they had to say about anything unless they were promoting their movie. And now you get to hear them during election season. Now you get to hear them during Pride Month. Now you get to hear them during all these other times. And they're saying stupid things. And so I think there's, again, a mixture of many of these people are trying to push this narrative crap. And then I think there's others where there might be, again, some pushing of the narratives, but it may not be as strong as might actually be there. We're only more aware of it because of our access, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Vader, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to bring up the example of them inserting that that black lady, if I don't remember her name, as the Viking queen in that new Vikings movie, which
she replaced a white male character from history,
which was absurd, and we're to the point now to where, like the Oscars, you can't even. How do you make how would you make an historical epic in Europe or something and be able to have it be Oscar worthy now? You know what I mean? Can you make a King Edward movie without checking all the boxes for Oscar consideration? It's silly to me. It's just
that's a little bit of a different topic, though, because that's basically the rewriting of history.
Right.
What I'm talking about here is adaptation. Because you have for instance, Kyle, we've had lots of talks about the Meg, right?
Oh,
and in the trailer for the Meg 2, we have Jason Statham on a jet ski doing a 360-degree harpoon maneuver in slow motion to the song Barracuda, whereas in the books, his character is actually more of a thinking, he's a retired Navy captain. He's more of a thinking man's action hero as opposed to Jason Statham. and I can understand to a certain extent wanting a more kind of action hero-y leading character fighting a giant shark. But at the same time, the changes that they've made to the books are so drastic that you have to wonder, it's what are they actually thinking about? Because the reason you adapt books is because there's a built-in audience for those stories. So Brian, go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to say one thing that I commented on the first trailer that came out for the second Meg movie. The only scene out of that was because I've read the Meg books. I love the Meg books. They get worse as they go on, but the second one, Trench, is actually pretty good. But the only scene out of the trailer that was actually from the book was the opening one when the Meg ate the Tyrannosaur. that was the only genuine scene from the book. Everything else is completely made up. It's absurd.
Yeah.
I think the
Brian,
whole thing's made up, bro.
Yeah,
You know what
all
I
books
mean.
are made up. Brian, I watched the interview with the Vampire TV adaptation, and all the gay stuff didn't really bother me all that much. I actually thought it was kind of interesting what they did there, because they made it like a unreliable narrator type thing, where basically the original Interview with the Vampire movie was told from a different perspective than like what was the real perspective. So like they actually gave some justification for their changes in that, which I thought was kind of clever. But for the most part, it just seems like Hollywood, like they keep taking these beloved properties like Cowboy Bebop, for instance. Like, how do you screw up Cowboy Bebop? It's like you literally just have to remake what's in the cartoon.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Cowboy Bebop is also a super frustrating thing as someone who is really into the cartoons.
Yeah. So why do you think Hollywood just can't fucking adapt anything? Like, just look at what they did to The Witcher. It got to the point where like Henry Cavill, he's like, this is not The Witcher anymore. I'm quitting because like you strayed so far from the source material.
And the wildest thing is Henry Cavill, someone who the fans adore, almost pretty much made for the part. I mean, perfect. He actually plays the games religiously. He's an actual religious fan of the games that he's trying to portray. He's trying to make the absolute best thing possible. See, they don't actually. I don't think they actually want what's best for the fans. I think that all these creatives, what they want to do is they want to represent their version of something. I don't think they're giving options. They're getting a lot of options. Like someone goes to their agent and says, "Hey, I have a position open for this job on The Witcher. You ever heard of it? No, but a job's a job." And they get there, and their immediate thought is not, "Let me learn the decades worth of lore or source material, books, games, whatever, that would allow me to craft something that not only that I'm proud of, that fans will love." Their first thought is, how can I make this mine? How can I put this mark on it so that when it's successful, not because everyone thinks it's going to be successful from their perspective, when it's successful, people see my unique vision. I think it's very selfish. A lot of people say it's a progressive thing. They're trying to push this narrative. Maybe so. But I don't think that's the actual motivation. I don't think the motivation is to push some narrative that they've all agreed to in some ceremony in the middle of the woods worshiping an owl. I think that most of them believe that way, and they're putting themselves on the paper, and I think it's selfish. They want to make a version of this IP that is their version, that is their vision, so that if it's successful, they get the credit for it. I think that's what it is. Now, because so many of them live in this echo chamber that is Hollywood, where everything's all super gay and progressive. That's all I can think of.
I know.
I think that they put it on paper because they're sitting in that echo chamber, and they want to also they don't want to just put their name on it and their own spin on something, but they also want to impress their friends that they're going to coffee with. See, Shane did this thing once where he looked at the demographic for, like the very liberal LGBT type person, and the rest of the United States, it's like a whopping like 6%, but in Hollywood, it's like 78%. Like the vast majority of that 6% lives in Southern California. So a lot of these people that are like operating in these circles, like the world to them, that's their world. Like they're operating in an echo chamber, and that's the world to them. And they're trying to be representative of the world. And I don't support it. That it's if you get called to create, let's say Star Trek, just for example, I don't know, you get called to create Star Trek, and you're some like 27, 28-year-old gender study student who's trying her hand at writing, and she knows the right people. Regardless of your politics, you should consider going back to the last 70 years and drawing inspiration from what you know has been successful. Same with Witcher, same with anything. Anything you're creating that has a history, a proven history, a foundation that everyone has pretty much objectively decided is successful. From a business perspective alone, you should consider and draw from, inspired from that core foundation that everyone already loves. I don't know why you're trying to put all this work into it. I don't think it's a motive. I don't think it's like we want to ruin the world or we want to make everything weird and complex and divisive. I really believe that they're living in an echo chamber and they're trying to put their selfish spin on whatever they're doing.
Well, there you go.
You know, it's kind of funny because like the whole, like we keep harping on the gay LGBTQ stuff. It's not so much to me that a character is gay. Like for instance, Captain Jack Harkness in Doctor Who, right? He was one of the most like coolest characters to come out of like the early reboot of Doctor Who.
Yeah, he was super gay. Torchwood was awesome though.
Yeah, but he wasn't introduced as like a gay character. I think that one of the problems with Hollywood is like they're so untalented and they don't know about character arcs and characterization that they're like, how do we make this character more interesting? Oh, we'll just make them gay. Yeah. And so like the character's entire identity is based around being gay. Whereas we all know that like, you know, sexuality is just like a part of someone's identity. It doesn't define who they are necessarily.
Right.
And so
yeah,
like,
and every one of these characters are so one-dimensional because like their entire character is wrapped into what their sexual preference is, which is silly. That's not how the world works.
You end up getting characters like Lando Calrissian. All of a sudden, he likes to hump droids.
Well, and the crazy part is that
reasons, you know, it's such a weird.
And you have this great actor who actually looks the role, who loves the source material, right? Like honestly, Donald Glover's awesome. You have this great actor who loves the source material, who looks the part, and he's ready to do what it takes to like nail this role. Perfect opportunity. Yet you write him all this garbage that completely ruins the character before he even has a chance to make it special. That was the most frustrating thing about Han Solo, about the Solo movie, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy is it's gotten to the point where like if I'm watching like an original TV show or like a movie or something like that, I can tell like when like two women are on screen together, I'm like, oh, eventually they're gonna fuck, right? like those two are super gay for each other. That was one of the big things about the Wheel of Time adaptation, where like basically everyone was gay in that show, and that wasn't from the books. At least from my memory.
And that's why I think
the books they were all women, right? But they weren't gay.
And that's why I think ultimately it's not even just right. A part of it is that now you have all these activists that are in these roles, but then also the entire philosophy of the culture has also changed, because now what is being taught to a lot of people, especially as they're growing up in their formative years, oh, your race is your identity. Oh, your orientation is your identity. That is who you are. That is the very, very core of your existence. And so it makes sense that when these activists, or just when these people who are impacted by the activist, go into the real world and start writing stories, how are they going to write the stories? They're going to write them the way in which they've been taught to, because that is what the perceived culture is at that time. And so it's just, again, this ever-defeating, self-defeating proposition.
And that's dangerous, because that's dangerous because that's a really bad way of looking at the world.
Yeah.
Like, in your little echo chamber, it looks okay, but it ultimately leads to a lot depression. It leads to, honestly, suicidal stuff. It leads to an entire generation broken by their lack of actual identity, because they're so wrapped up in their sexual identity. It's crazy.
I think it has a lot to do with the obsession of labels that a lot of people have these days, especially in Hollywood circles, because you have very minute aspects of a personality, race, gender, sexuality, and things like that. Oftentimes, when you're writing a character, you want to start off with backgrounds, goals, ambitions, hopes, dreams, things like that. What they seem to do a lot of the times in Hollywood is they'll start with those basic layouts, the race, gender, sexuality, and all that, and attach more meaning than is really there in the first place. This character is gay. That means this, 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 and this. This character is black. That means this, 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 and this.
Stereotyping.
When really, what effectively,
Which
yes,
is
what they're
racist.
doing, unironically,
or just lazy
what they're
writing.
doing is instead of giving us, what they're doing is they're giving us a gay character. What they should do is give us a character who is gay.
Exactly.
People in chat have been talking about V from Arcane. Wonderful example, because she has so many goals, ambitions. She has this tragic backstory. She is a badass pugilist. The weapon upgrades she gets midway through the season is so much fun to watch. Oh, also she likes women.
Yeah. Let me tell you how good Arcane was. I am a diehard lifetime. Oh, I'm sorry, my camera was off. What the hell? I'm a diehard lifelong 25-year Dota player. My chair is Dota. Everything's Dota. Like, that is the one vice I have, and I will never give it up. You'll pull it from my dead hands. I will play Dota until I die or until the game is dead. League is what Arcane is based on. League of Legends and Dota are competing franchises. And I watched Arcane and I was like, God damn, this is so good. This is good. And it's so much better than the Dota version of the same cartoon that they tried to put out a year later. Arcane's an amazing show. No,
Yeah, it
that
took a
said,
long time to make that.
League of Legends is garbage, regardless. So
But you know, that was an adaptation done right by all
it
accounts.
really was.
So real quick, I want to call up some super chats here. So Gavin Blackburn for £1.49. Like to see how I did that. Good to see you back, Gavin. We had a little bit of an issue where someone banned him on our channel. We don't know who. But
Wasn't me. I
glad
swear.
to get him back.
Even though you never
Right.
give me super stickers, I'm just saying.
Salty Saturday superstar Bob Dorsey for $20. Mr. Kadish, that is correct. As a bisexual top, I am sick of seeing all this gay sheet. All I want is a good story with good writing. Watch Arcane. Pretty sure V might be a gay. Or Vi. Yes, Vi might be a gay. Didn't add or subtract from the actual goddamn story. Agree with you 100%, Mr. Dorsey. It's just kind of like, I feel like a character's sexuality just needs to be an element within like the overall story. It doesn't need to be the focus of that. What really gets me is where you take like characters who, you know, sexuality is not part of the fabric of, you know, how they're being written, and all of a sudden they're gay for each other, and they just gay out for like the rest of like the show or something like that.
You mean Picard season 2?
Yeah.
Jesus,
7 of 9 and Raffi.
Just instantly, like there was no setup for that. All of a sudden, they're holding hands.
That's
The
a
weirdest
great.
thing.
It's a great example. Great example.
Hey, by the way, real quick, Bob, bisexual top, you say?
Brian's all over that.
Ooh,
comment,
Twinks
yeah.
is coming out.
Twinks is coming out, exactly. But yeah, you know, like it's kind of funny because I feel like gay, like homosexual people, they're just like, hey, just treat us like normal people. Like it doesn't have to define us. Hollywood's just like, no. Like you have to do your own thing.
Yeah, I saw this meme once where it was like, the first panel was like, gay people just wanted to be treated like everyone else were normal, and the second panel is that same gay guy with like pink dildos on his head running down the street in a parade with flags. It's like, all right, come on, you're making this really hard, dude. You're making this hard. Like, we want to normalize it, but that shit ain't normal, dude. I don't know what to do with you, man. I mean, celebrate all you want, but like the statements are they don't back each other up, dude.
Do you guys think people are fed up with all this? Or is there a reset coming in Hollywood with this stuff that's going on?
And now
You don't think so?
the writer's strike is actually bad for a so-called reset, because
I mean, these studios, they're canceling these first look options and all this stuff. I mean,
right, but without a merit-based system, like if the studios win and there is no merit-based system, it's not gonna.
But
There's
there's
no-
also it's a cultural thing though. Like the culture is not changing in Hollywood. So
like they're building studios here. I mean, I feel like the industry is going to be leaving Hollywood.
Well, Hollywood
you know
is
what
a
I mean?
place, but it's not really a
I mean,
place anymore.
they're building Hollywood studios at UNLV. Mark Wahlberg's out here building a massitive studio out.
I know, but that's still part of Hollywood, bro.
You know,
Like,
there's
they shoot primarily in Canada, but it's still Hollywood, you know.
I don't know. I feel like I feel like there's a cultural shift beginning to happen a little bit. I mean,
I hope you're right.
there's movies like what's the one that's making all the money that I can't think of the name of right now with the child trafficking stuff.
Angel Studio.
I mean, that thing keeps going along, and Hollywood movies like Mission Impossible fall off a cliff. It's
Although
weird.
we can't say the name of that movie without the stream getting demonetized.
Dude, we were demonetized 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, in the first like 5 minutes when you kept saying shithead, I think we have
I'm trademarking that, by the way.
yeah. I just say I feel like there's a shift beginning to happen, and the more that they keep pushing,
I get you, but like they're trying to paint it as some kind of anomaly that is only being propped up because a bunch of right wing wackos.
Go ask Bud Light how much of an anomaly it is.
No, I'm with you, dude. I'm with you, but like most of these people are delusional, especially like the 1% at the top of these companies that believe in like they're actual zealots about the weird EKG scores and all that nonsense. Like
ESG.
ESG. They do not believe that there is any power on the normal side of
Hollywood has made it standard practice to attack the audience as being racist, bigots,
like immediately,
all that stuff if they don't accept the garbage that they're putting out. But real quick, so first of all, Bob, love you to death, buddy. Thank you so much for the support. Now we got Neil for $10. The problem is these activists believe they are better than the source, not realizing without the source material they wouldn't have a job. It's insulting and disrespectful to fans of the material. That's 100% accurate, in my opinion.
I agree.
I'm looking back on that bookshelf behind Krimson's head, and I'm wondering how many cool movies could be produced by the material that's back there if they just probably stuck to the source
Probably
material.
countless.
I mean, there's probably decades worth of material back there to send into the movie
easily.
studios. So
well, you know what doesn't have decades of source material to adapt is Star Wars, which brings us to Lando, the TV series. So, guys, guess what? It was announced, or I guess it shouldn't say announced, but it was leaked that Donald Glover and his brother Stephen Glover are going to write Lucasfilm's Lando TV series, just as the
might be
old
good.
showrunner exited. So I do love Donald Glover. I think that he's very talented, and despite the fact that Solo was a very poor Star Wars movie, I felt like he was really good in it. Not as good as Billy D, obviously, but still, I feel like he did the smart thing. He was just doing a Billy D impression, right? So like it felt more authentic. And then Jonathan Kasdan had to ruin it by saying Lando was a pansexual and he was banging his robot and all that other stuff. So I'm wondering if
toaster.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering if Donald Glover might try to fix that going forward, since he's going to have kind of creative control over the show. And I don't think Kathleen Kennedy would tell a black man how to, do a Lando TV show.
I mean, maybe, bro. He's a super fan. He loves Star Wars.
Yeah, but guys, here's the thing: Star Wars has been on a losing streak for a really long time. And if everything I'm hearing about the Acolyte is true, like that thing is going to be a huge money loser for Lucasfilm, in addition to Indiana Jones and Willow and all that other crap that they've been putting out. So my question is do you guys think that this is actually going to turn out to, number one, be a good Star Wars show, and number two, actually like help Lucasfilm kind of like recover the Star Wars brand? I'd like to start with you, Vader. What are your thoughts on this? Because you were kind of excited about Ahsoka at first, but then the more trailers you saw for it, you were like, this doesn't look good.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. I don't believe it's ever going to see the light of day. I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, they announced this thing, I think, a couple years ago. I think the guy that was in charge then is not in charge now. They don't think he's attached to it at all. And it's just more bluster from people that are sort of maybe involved. It's like, hey, we wrote a Solo show and, yada, yada, yada. It's just more nonsense coming out of Lucasfilm. I don't believe it's going to happen, and I won't believe it until I actually see it on Disney Plus, I guess. I mean, these streaming shows they're not good. They're not good, and I don't believe it's going to happen. And it's just more of the same. Hey, they announce something, it doesn't come out, and it's just to keep the Star Wars name and brand. It's just more to keep it being talked about, I think, is what it's all about. So I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, remember, Rian Johnson's trilogy is totally happening still.
No, it's never going to happen.
It absolutely is. It absolutely will. I
Definitely
promise,
happening.
guys.
And Kathleen
stereo.
Kennedy's. My informant has not gotten back to me, so I don't know if Kathleen Kennedy's gone yet or not.
Oh.
So
Your deep throat. Yeah.
my deep informant. Yeah.
Brian from the Popcast.
So,
What do you think of a Lando TV show, and is it going to be better than what we've been getting from Star Wars TV shows recently?
I gotta say, man, Donald Glover is awesome. I think he's a great writer. I think he's super talented. I've been a massive fan of his since freaking Community. I think he's a really talented guy. I've even seen the stuff that he's done that I normally wouldn't like, but because he did it, it was at the very least entertaining. I think if he's actually writing it and he has creative control of it, like this might be the first time in a tiny spark of excitement has ever actually been felt in my veins for Star Wars since Episode 8. I would love to see. I will 100% watch, or at least give it a shot, a Donald Glover Star Wars story.
So
That'd be great.
what is when he's playing Lando? Is it Donald Glover being Lando, or is it Donald Glover doing a Billy D. Williams impersonation?
I mean, honestly, I hope it's the latter. He should do He should do Billy D. Williams. I don't want to see his version of it. I want to see the character. Look, this is not like. This is when people go like, oh, well, he's just doing a William Shatner impersonation. Yeah, bitch, that's the character. What do you want? Yes, the original actor that played the character, he set the tone for that character. So if you try to make it your own character, you're being disrespectful to the character. And isn't it bad writing for the character to all of a sudden completely change because some actor decided that to be the case? No, he did a great job in Solo by impersonating Billy D. Williams. So do the same thing. I think he's a great writer. I think he'll write it really well. And if he sticks with that playbook, that he's going to be acting the character like the character is already established as acting, and not him being his version of it, then we're good. I don't want to see your version of it, bro. I already like the character.
I want to know what else he's written. I mean, I've seen him in Community. I thought he was pretty good, but since then, other than the Solo stuff, I haven't really followed this guy, so I don't know much about him.
He did this show called Atlanta on FX.
Yeah, Atlanta.
Got a
Yeah,
lot
it was
of
really good.
praise.
And Brian, you brought up a good point too, because I remember when it happened with Harry Potter, where you had the original actor, was it Richard Harris, who was Dumbledore. And my wife is a huge fan of the books, and she loved Richard Harris as Dumbledore because it was much like the character that is presented in the books. Then Michael Gambon takes over. He didn't read any of the books. He had no knowledge, so he just made it his own. And people who were fans of the books hated his interpretation of the character because it not only disrespected the books, but then also disrespected what Richard Harris had started in the original first two films.
Right.
So it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. Yeah.
It's so arrogant too when an actor's like, I really tried to make this character my own. Fuck you. Why are you doing that? It's not your character. Like you have a job. You are given money to act as a character that is already established. No one said you're allowed to make it your own. And as a studio exec, if I saw the dailies and some actor is completely taking a character out of their character, I'd be like, yo, fire that guy. Find me someone to do the character right, or have him do it right. Like that's why these studios are so mismanaged. Yeah, the people at the top they treat these actors and these actresses like they're royalty. There's a billion of them. If they can't do the job right, get one that can. Brian, making it your own is so arrogant, dude.
What about these cases like Jenna Ortega and Wednesday? She took Wednesday and made her own.
No, she did not. Because the way it was written, the way Wednesday was written was completely different. They wanted Wednesday to literally come in and smile at her roommate and have like some like flirtatious will they won't they thing. She stopped the production.
I guess you're right.
Went into the writer's room, had them change it, and said Wednesday wouldn't do that. They didn't want to make a season 2 because they said she was so difficult to work with because she was so strict that the source material matched what she thought of Wednesday, not what they were writing.
She cavilled
it, bro.
Yeah.
They,
also,
in fact, if that show wasn't so ridiculously successful, there would not be a season 2.
And also, there's two things. There's two ways to make a character your own. There is you can just completely do your own thing that is completely disconnected from what came before, or you take what came before and then you add to it. And I think what Jenna Ortega did is that she said, "Here is the basic framework. I'm keeping it, but I am going to make it my own because there are things I can do within this framework." It's when actors decide to step outside of that or try to create a brand new framework that the issues ultimately come up.
Yeah, remember we never saw Wednesday as a teenager in high school like that. It's like
I'm with you. I'm just trying to throw some examples out there. Like, what about
if I'm watching that and Wednesday smiles, I would just delete it.
What about Chris Pine and Kirk? Did he make Kirk his own, or did he?
Yeah, I believe he did actually. In fact, I think the JJ movies get a little bit of bad rap. People really didn't like the actors or whatever. The thing is, though, like, to be fair, these actors went out of their way to learn the mannerisms, learn the speech patterns of the people that they were portraying in these rebooted movies, to the point where J.J. Abrams had to tell, and there's behind the scenes footage of this, had to tell Chris Pine to tone down the Shatner.
Tone the Shatnerism down.
He literally said, "You got to tone down the Shatner, man. There's too much Shatner there." He got to the point where he was pulling Shatner so much it seemed like a parody, and they had to tone him down.
There's something on the wing.
Right. So he was trying to emulate the character that came before him. I gotta give Chris Pine props for that. And to be fair, Zachary Quinto did the same thing. He literally talked to Leonard Nimoy for weeks. Weeks they went and got lunch together. He tried to emulate him. The movies didn't work out for a lot of people because of a lot of reasons. But I don't think it was the character actors themselves that did it. I think they did a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, miscasting is not always. It's not going to be their fault, right?
But but
if an actor's trying, then yeah.
Honestly, those characters should not have been recat. Like, they should have just gone with like a whole new Starship crew or something like that. In my opinion, anyway.
I agree with you 100%. But they were given the job, so.
But so, Kyle, Kathleen Kennedy famously stated that there were no books, comic books, or anything source material wise that they could pull from to make new Star Wars. So, what's your opinion on this? Do you think that Lucasfilm just keeps going back to the well of already established stuff instead of moving forward?
When I heard that, I wanted to take my copy of Heir to the Empire and smack her with it.
Oh, Timothy Zahn?
Yep.
Dude, he was at AwesomeCon one year. I just missed an opportunity to get an autograph from him. That was
some of the Star Wars books are so epic.
X-Wing series.
Dude, I totally understand why people love Thrawn so much. One chapter into that book, I'm like, oh god, I understand.
Dude, I remember when I was a kid reading the Star Wars books, I was like, damn, this is better than the movies, bro. Like, they were so good.
So I heard something a little while ago that apparently nobody reads in Hollywood, and I think that is very evident from the way that people adapt movies. Like, they take the brief concept of a story and mush it around as much as they really can in a very short amount of time, especially because in the streaming age, we've got people who are trying to churn a brand new TV show or a movie out every 5 minutes, like the legions of stuff on Hulu or Netflix that I've never heard of before.
I like when Crimson gets passionate. It's great.
You found me when I was rested and caffeinated.
Right.
The stuff that's out there doesn't have time to percolate or to really gestate. They are just taking a glance at a book and they are churning it out there as quickly as possible. Now, granted, Kennedy was an absolute moron when she said that particular line. Even if you don't like the extended universe, even if you don't like a good portion, and there are plenty of books to not like, some of them generally are trash, but to say that there's nothing there to build off of, there is so much potential. Just even if you took just the characters, you didn't take the you didn't actually take the plot lines or anything. You don't even have to touch Thrawn in order to have a very successful sequel trilogy. And
I swear to God, Crimson, when episode 7 came out, I swore on a stack of Bibles that Daisy Ridley and what's his name was going to be Jaken and Jaina.
I can't blame you for thinking that. You had, I mean, plenty of that.
25 books to pull from, yeah, dude. Like
hundreds of books to pull from.
Yeah. I only read 20 of them, so.
You read more than I have, to be honest, but no, to say that there is so little to build off of is the height of laziness, and unfortunately is the core problem of so many adaptations these days. You've got the material there, but people don't want the story, they don't want the lessons, they don't want the themes, they want the brand name, very much like when Elon bought Twitter, apparently. To cycle back to that,
X.
We've gone full circle. I don't care. I'm calling it Twitter.
They call
10,
it Star
bro.
Wars X.
10.
Shithead.
It's shit.
Poop emoji.
Yeah. Kennedy doesn't know what she's talking about right now.
Kyle, let me ask you this. So, like, we have a situation here with the upcoming Ahsoka show where basically they took the Thrawn trilogy, the original books that kicked off the Star Wars Extended Universe in novel format, and they've replaced Luke with Ahsoka, essentially. Like, this is basically Thrawn's trilogy, but with different characters. What are your thoughts on that?
I haven't read through all those books yet, but I feel so much sympathy for Timothy Zahn right now. This must be like watching your child in like one of those old Rocky and Bullwinkle death traps where you're like they're tied to a saw going towards a sawmill or something.
And he's not even getting paid for it, bro.
Right?
That's the crappy part. Like he's not even getting any love for it.
Like, personally, I've been done with Star Wars for so long at this point. I have like nothing in this. I have no faith that this is going to be good. If Donald Glover is actually writing the Lando show and he actually is passionate, maybe it has a chance. I won't try to judge it until it's out. But if you ask me, am I excited about any of this stuff? Hell no. I've been so done with so much of this for so long. It's just routine disappointment after routine disappointment. It's becoming tiresome. I would much rather just step back and let this all be done with. Let the burning ship sink to the ocean while I'm still on the beach.
So I want to throw this to Odin. Odin, ever since Lucasfilm has pivoted from Star Wars movies to Star Wars TV shows, I feel like the Star Wars TV shows have done far more brand damage than the movies at this point, because they just keep churning out these shows that are getting worse and worse and worse and more political, and fans are just getting tired of them to the point where, like, they don't care about the movies, they don't care about new TV shows, and they keep going back to these older legacy characters that people are like, we want to move on from these. We want to preserve these characters in amber the way that we love them and remember them, and we want to move on. But Lucasfilm just refuses to do that. So what are your thoughts on the brand damage that these Disney Plus Star Wars TV shows have done?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's the same thing that's what's going on with Marvel too, right? The movies have done so much damage, but the shows ultimately have done even more. And just the fact that they try to tell audiences, oh yeah, you have to watch these shows just to understand everything going on in the film, that in and of itself kind of does that type of damage. And I honestly look at this series, the Lando series, and everything they have planned, and we were talking earlier about how they are likely, they've been losing money on these movies, but pretty much everything they've put on streaming has been for a loss, right? Because I mean, how do you quantify the number of new subscribers you get for a show, or how many subscribers you keep for a show? It's really impossible to do that. And
it's impossible because they won't share the numbers, which is why they're striking in the first place.
Exactly, yes. And so, but what we do know is, based on the numbers that we do have access to, is that people are not watching them, and the ones that are don't really love them in any degree whatsoever. And so I think no matter what they do with this show, it's going to be dead in the water. And then also, I don't know too much about the writing skills of Donald Glover. But what I do know is the immense power of not just Kathleen Kennedy, but all of the executives at Lucasfilm and the ability that they have to have control over these stories. Because even when you've had, whether it be in Marvel or in Star Wars, you have people that are, even somewhat competent or at least have some good properties to their name, it doesn't mean anything. Let's go back to Marvel, big picture. People said, oh, Sam Raimi is directing a Doctor Strange movie. Oh, man. Well, guess what? How much power did he actually probably have in that film? Probably as much as he did, with Spider-Man 3. And we all know how Spider-Man 3 ended up, right? And so I think that when you look at what Donald Glover, he might be there, he might be writing it, but it doesn't matter what his identity is. It's either going to be on the brand, which has been a terrible, again, whatever they've decided the brand is at this point is clearly not connecting with fans. So it's either going to stay on brand or just like what's happened with almost every other Star Wars property, you're going to see a lot of turnaround. This show in and of itself, the fact that he's already on because they've lost somebody, this is quintessential Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy, is, oh, wait, you're going to have how many writers, how many directors that you're going to kind of cipher through before you finally get someone there. When you finally do, guess what? You're still going to produce crap. So it's just not going to end well.
Yeah, and if just half the rumors about the chaos behind the making of the Acolyte is true, like that's going to be a disaster. Like they've already spent what, like $200 million on the first season of that show.
Yeah.
And apparently it's such a mess that like they don't know if they can actually salvage it into like an actual like TV series. But Odin, you actually, you touched on Marvel as well. And it kind of strikes me because like the next big Marvel release is the Marvels. And if you haven't been watching the Disney Plus series, you don't know who two of those characters in that show are, right? So it's kind of like how, at what point does somebody sit down and say like, hey, we need to look at this holistically and we need to figure out how to bring audiences along like a single story thread, as opposed to forcing them to watch all these terrible TV shows, because Marvel's TV shows have been garbage. Like as bad as Star Wars has been, Marvel has been even worse.
Oh yeah. And the only way that can ever happen is you clean house. And the chances of that happening with the powerful executives that are the ones that are in question here is just not very likely, or it would be incredibly difficult for them to do. But unless you were to just clean house of anyone who's in charge of things, Kevin Feige, again, try getting rid of him. And, when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy Lucasfilm, obviously there's the rumors that she might be retiring, who knows? But what we can gather is that it's going to be difficult because you'll have to essentially clear out all of these top executives who are making these decisions, especially anyone in that creative space, and bring in people that you can actually trust. And that's a difficult thing to do in today's market.
But let me throw this out to the panel in general, because Solo, a Star Wars story, was the first Star Wars movie to actually like lose money, right? Like it bombed. And so the idea here where Kathleen Kennedy is like, hey, let's take our worst performing Star Wars movie, take a character from that movie and give them their own TV show. It's almost like, Kevin Feige saying like, hey, that Agatha Harkness character, yeah, let's give her own TV show because people love that character. So I just want to ask you, just as a general discussion.
Isn't that what they did?
That's exactly what they did. But I'm questioning the logic behind it, because it's like, yeah, you got Donald Glover, who's a very talented guy, but why not give him like his own corner of the Star Wars universe to play in, as opposed to sticking him with a legacy character that nobody really wants to see like this version of the character of, and giving him his own show. Anybody have anything to say about that?
No. I think you're right. Especially how talented he is. Like, if he wasn't like a very talented person, and like, well, I just stay with what works. But nothing they're doing right now that plays in that legacy has been working. So you have something that's talented like that, like do what you did with Favreau and be like, all right, well, make the Mandalorian. But let him do whatever he wants.
I feel like it's part of a broader issue, right? Because nobody's out there saying like, oh, we want a young Lando TV show. I really want to watch that. No. Nobody's out there saying like, I want a Andor TV show because I really loved, Andor from Rogue One, right? Like they have all these like characters that people love, but for some reason they seem to be focusing on these characters that people aren't really excited about, right? So like, I almost feel like there needs to be a point to these TV shows other than like, hey, let's just give a character their own show, like Obi-Wan, because people love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. Like, why don't we focus on like seminal events in the Star Wars universe and have new characters that we can like attach ourselves to in the TV sphere?
Yeah.
Why do we keep going to these characters that nobody really wants to hear more from?
I think part of the problem is that they don't have a story to tell, and that might sound like an obvious comment at first, but because obviously these are all profit driven, and hey, this is vaguely recognizable. Let's just put this out there. I think the problem is that they have nothing to explore. Lando, or any number of characters they could pull, they don't have any kind of thematic element. There's no human emotion to really try to explore. We're not contemplating the existence of self, if one were to get pretentious. There's so little to really investigate there, and to quote Patrick Willems, these are children's movies about space wizards.
Yeah, don't you dare quote Patrick H. Willems on this channel, sir. I will kick you off. I hate that.
Can I do it if I'm mocking him?
Yes, you can.
Good. Willems is a twit. So
He is.
the problem is they take that idea and they run with it. It's like, oh, it's allowed to be stupid because it's for a younger audience or something, completely ignoring the fact that you can still have good lessons or some degree of introspection in your show, but that would require them to have a base level of empathy and some exposure to the world outside of whatever small bubble they live in.
But I mean, like, if you wanted to salvage Solo, right? Like, at the end of Solo, we got the reveal that Darth Maul's still alive, right? We got the Rising Sun or the Red Suns or like whatever that criminal organization is. And then you had Kira, right? So you could have done a Star Wars TV show about that criminal organization and incorporate various characters like Kira and Darth Maul and stuff like that into that TV show. But it's really about the Star Wars underworld as opposed to a specific character. Like, to me, that's far more interesting than something like a Lando show.
Yeah, but
right?
what we got the really cool slow motion Vespa chase through Moss Esper. I mean,
The Power Rangers Vespa.
I
Really
remember
cool.
that, dude.
that was really cool. And we got.
I remember
we got
when
Boba-
Shane
we
was
got-
trying to. Shane was
got-
really trying to love it. And he was trying to explain how that's okay. I mean, like they're like, Shane, no.
we
Shane,
got
come on.
we got Boba Fett riding around on a Rancor, man. I mean, that's peak
that
Star
was
Wars right
that
there.
was cool.
You can't top that. You can't top that.
You're
Do you
right.
remember
That
the
was-
child Leia chase?
Oh god.
You know what happened to the? Remember when Disney? I remember when Disney bought Star Wars, right? I was like, "Oh my God, we're finally gonna get some cool Star Wars movies again."
Yep.
And I was so happy. I was
too.
I felt like such a huge nerd again.
This is awesome. They have
You know,
all the money in
we're
the
gonna get-
world.
We're gonna get Revan. We're gonna get, Luke and the gang are gonna get back together. We're gonna get Mara Jade. We're gonna get all these cool stuff, and we haven't gotten any of
Ray.
that. None of it. We haven't got any
Yeah.
of it.
And the crazy
Hey.
part is they literally had a roadmap just sitting
It
right
was-
there.
So
And they
going forward, we're going to say that the Star Wars EU is null and void. It doesn't exist anymore.
Why?
So therefore,
Why?
all of
do
this
that?
stuff doesn't matter. And then we're going to go and we're going to pick and choose, and we're going to take
And
things out of it.
You know why they did that?
And-
Because they didn't want to have to pay the writers that wrote the stories.
Yeah,
in the first
I know
place.
why. It's just preposterous. And
Hey.
I also have a theory that they did it because we never want to see Jackster in the Star Wars show.
Hey, do you
So-
guys remember when Luke fucking Skywalker sent Baby Yoda by himself to Tatooine in the hopes of finding
Oh my God.
Din Djarin instead of actually delivering it to him
Hey,
himself?
you guys remember when there was a baby Yoda?
He was busy.
Right.
All right, Luke was.
I'm
busy.
so upset.
I knew everyone liked them, but like the whole time I was like, why is there a baby Yoda?
Why do we keep doing this to ourselves?
I don't care what anyone
That's
says. Baby Yoda was cute.
Yeah,
Baby Yoda
adorable.
was cute.
Hey,
Unpop,
W,
unpop.
hey,
So were the little-
gifted
so were the
5
little
subs,
penguins.
guys. WG gifted 5 Salty Nerd
Yeah.
memberships. Thank you,
Wow,
WG.
WG
Big
coming
shout out
through
to
with the heat.
WG. Yeah, we forgot to hit our sub goal at the beginning of the show. So WG, thank you so
Appreciate
much
that.
for gifting those 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships, because we do indeed release once a week members only exclusive content.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that. Real quick,
I mean,
we got
yeah,
a super
but you know
chat.
what? A lot of feet pics. Let's chill on the feet pics.
Yeah, you hear that, Mater? Stop showing your feet.
Come on, man.
Mexican Iron Man for $4.99. This show will suck like everything from Lucasfilm, and this is a scab announcement from being disloyal to the writer actor commie union community. That's right. This comes on the heels of the writers and actors strike. So it's kind of interesting that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were like, yeah, but this is union approved. And when I heard that, I was like, come on, guys. What are you doing?
It's all for show mostly.
Who's
I
in
mean,
this?
Oh, it's not a
communist
scab.
meeting?
It's union approved. I'm like, that, okay, come on, guys.
I'm writing names down.
are you reporting them? Good.
I'm gonna report them to
All
the.
right,
It was so weird though. Like when they were like, no, it's not. They're not scabbing. It's union approved. They got the go away. I'm like, okay, all right. So how much? I guess you can just pay for the. I mean,
Listen,
it makes the strike completely pointless.
I just watched Oppenheimer, okay, and I'm in that whole mode where it's like, were you involved with the Communist Party in any way whatsoever?
Communist adjacent.
So guys, speaking of unions and stuff like that, let's talk about George R.R. Martin getting his HBO deal suspended. So there was an interesting article here from Bounding Into Comics, which kind of goes over this announcement that George R.R. Martin put up on his blog that talks about how his overall deal with HBO has been suspended due to the writer's strike, and he's actually being forced to work on his book.
Oh no!
Now,
Dude, the
Kyle,
writer's strike. I'm sorry, I forgot he was a writer. Interesting.
Well, he's been a screenwriter in Hollywood for a long time.
I know. I'm joking, bro. He's
been working on a lot of different Game of Thrones based HBO projects, but now that everything's shut down, he's like, oh, I'm going to work on a play, and I might get around to like my book. Now, Kyle, it's been like what?
I feel like the
15
play's gonna have a
years?
lot of penises.
Yeah, it's been like 15 years since the release of Dancing with Dragons, if I'm not mistaken. But it's been a long time. So, like, is this kind of like a blessing in disguise where, like, he got his HBO deal kind of, taken away? So now he's actually got to write Wins a Winner?
I mean, it could be, but he's already set himself multiple deadlines at this point. I think it was like last June or July. He actually went out and said, if I don't, publish Winds of Winter by now, you're allowed to like imprison me in a cell with a typewriter. That was a year ago, man. I think he's written himself into a corner. I heard something at some point unsubstantiated that like he killed off a character that he actually really needed, and now he doesn't know what to do. And that seems to fit at this point. Like maybe he's got his expectations up really, really high and is really, really nervous because season 8 of the show was absolute garbage, and he's worried, oh my God, what if that happens to me? Or the conspiracy theory that I heard at some point. Season 8 was how he was planning on ending the series, but everyone hated it. So he's like, oh, now I've got to backtrack and make something good. Like I like to steal, man. I like to see people from a positive perspective, but realistically speaking, I don't think he's really going to do anything. Maybe he'll work on a play, but I don't think we're getting Winds of Winter anytime soon. I hope I'm wrong on that because I loved those books, but like, fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you, rather.
Yeah, Brian, even if we do get Winds of Winter, he's still got one more book, A Dream of Spring, that he's got to complete to finish the saga.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, what do you think of this news that basically, like, now that HBO, because he said that he's editing another Wild Cards book, he's working on a theatrical play version of a Game of Thrones story, and of course he's got the Winds of Winter thing, but he's also striking with the current writer's strike for Hollywood. So, I mean, at this point, like, are we ever going to see another book from this guy?
No, we're not. In fact, I feel like if he's actually out there striking, then he's walking around with a giant, like, 24 pack of donuts and just loving the fact that he doesn't actually have to write anything. I mean, he's not gonna do anything, bro. That poor guy is gonna think about this. The second he actually writes it, no matter how it plays out, it's gonna be bad for him. Let's say everyone likes it. then it's over for him.
I
Everyone hates it. It's over for him. If 50% of people like it, 50%, no matter what, when he finishes it, the run's over. From that perspective, he should never finish it.
I'm getting this this thing in my brain to where we're gonna get like this news on CNN or something pretty soon that says George RR Martin has been kidnapped by a superfan and locked in a dungeon somewhere with a typewriter.
It's gonna be misery.
It's like you're
And
not
he
gonna
can't
get
press
out until you finish.
It's gonna
this
be
movie.
misery.
He can't press charges because he said it was okay to do that.
Yeah, it's just. So I'm actually kind of glad because as a non-book reader, I have all the books, but I vowed to myself that since I'm kind of stupid and can't read very good, that I'm not going to read these books until I can have them all in front of me at once, and I can just like go to my grave and finally finish on my deathbed. So
Vader hopes he never finishes them.
so no, for real, I have the books, but I have told myself I'm not going to bother starting to read them until they're all done. So I'll probably never read these books, but I do love the series. I can't say that the show sucks because I never read the books, you know. So I like what we got. Season 8, yeah, that was garbage. I'm not gonna lie, it was garbage. But
I like the show.
I can't feel the pain that the book readers have because I'm not a book reader. But
Yeah, I'm a long-suffering book reader, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Odin, I want to throw this to you because basically, from what I understand, George R. R. Martin. So we've got House of the Dragon that he was working on. We've got A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is the new spinoff that's going into production. But he was also developing like 3 other Game of Thrones centered shows with HBO, and now all that is kind of on pause until the writer's strike and the actor's strike and stuff like that is resolved. Ironically enough, the second season of House of the Dragon is still shooting because they're using UK actors who have a different union, so they're not striking. So that show's still moving forward. But from the economics of this as being like a tentpole of the Max original series, kind of strategy, how smart is it to sideline George R. R. Martin?
I mean, there's so many different factors going on with it that I think that you could make an argument for the positive and for the negative. But I think, honestly, the way you look at his career, and especially the last 15 years since the last time he wrote a book, it almost seems like he has ADD. Because if you think about it, he's been working on this other book, but then every time he gets to a place, what happens? He's like, oh, I have another idea. Let me write this instead. All right. And then he puts that out instead. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I got another idea. And so it honestly just feels like maybe with this, again, how much of this is being impacted by, based on how I read it, it sounded like this was more so because of the strike, because that's what he is kind of doing. His focus is on that. So it kind of makes sense for there to be some kind of maybe suspension there. Again, I don't know how it works when your writer is a part of the union in the United States, but your show is being made in the UK, what kind of crossover stuff you have to deal with. So that could ultimately make some sense there. But also, I think that it could also be an indication of, all right, yeah, you really need to start to get your stuff together. You need to get your act together, and you need to actually start focusing on these projects because you're just kind of just working on random things every now and then. It's just crazy.
Yeah, he's got his own theater out there in New Mexico, and the Jacques Cousteau Theater or something like that. Jean Cousteau. So he does a lot of stuff in his local community.
Mm-hmm.
See, when he does actually finish this book, if it ever does get released, is there going to be parties and festivals based around the release of the book? Are people going to be camping out in front of the bookstore? And
you know that scene in Star Wars where Alderaan explodes and the voices of a million people suddenly being silenced? It's going to be the opposite of that. Okay.
Yeah, but what's blowing my mind is I didn't realize that there's still another book after this one that he hasn't finished yet. You guys are doomed. You book readers are doomed. You're never gonna get the end of this thing. And he's 80 years old, right?
He specifically stated that if he dies before it finishes, he's not allowing anyone to finish it. he's not going to allow Brandon Sanderson to come in.
Oh man,
he's just holding everyone hostage, right?
Exactly. He's like, y'all better keep me alive.
It's gonna be fan fiction forever.
Get the Andromicon in here.
From Bob Dorsey for $10. Thank you so much, Bob. Salty Saturday superstar here. Culturally, they are sheet-hearted. They have nothing else other than what came before. This is true. Hollywood is culturally bankrupt, in my opinion, and creatively bankrupt as well. Speaking of which, of creatively bankrupt, let's talk about Mattel and the cinematic universe that they're planning to do as our final topic of the day. So, guys, we have this Variety article here with the lovely Lena Dunham featured very prominently next to Margot Robbie.
Is she Barney?
No, she's not.
You love me. Excuse me.
So Lena Dunham is working on the Polly Pocket adaptation. But what's weird here is, so like Mattel, off of the success of Barbie, what they're looking to do is they're looking to take all of their kind of like toy IPs and turn them into a movie that's somehow connected. But they're hiring these people that are making very adult changes to these things. So instead of targeting like the youngins, as these toy movies should, they're actually making them so that they're darker, more adult themed and stuff like that. And everyone's wondering, like, Mattel, what are you doing here? What do you do here?
What are you doing,
Vader,
man?
Yeah, Vader, what do you think of this, of Mattel going out and hiring Lena Dunham to make like a Polly Pocket movie and stuff?
I know. Look, this Barbie, I didn't watch, don't care, not for me. There is nothing in that list of movies that I want to see. Nothing. I mean, it's
You don't want to see a gritty Hot Wheels movie?
How do you make a movie cinematic universe on things designed for 6-year-olds? I can't.
You don't want to see Thomas and Friends is directed by the guy who brought us World War Z?
I mean,
you don't want to see Thomas and Friends by Quentin Tarantino.
I mean, you look at this. You look at this list, right? And Barney, I love you, you love me. It's just like the Adventures of the Pedo Dinosaur. No, nobody wants to watch that. Okay,
guys, let me read you the synopsis for Barney.
Oh boy.
Let me just read this before we continue, Matt.
Oh boy.
The iconic purple dinosaur will inspire a live-action film that Mattel has previously described as an A24 type of surrealistic movie. Now, Brenner divulges a few more details, telling Variety, "I don't know that it's necessarily going to be darker. It's just going to be unique, more of like a Being John Malkovich or adaptation type movie, referencing the 1999 and 2002 Spike Jonze films." That's what they're planning for Barbie.
Yeah,
we already have Death to Smoochie.
I'm gonna say, so they're making Death to Smoochie then with Barney.
you know,
I think that's hilarious.
You go down this list, right? And Polly Pocket, no idea what that is, don't care. Hot Wheels has already been done by the Cars. There's already, the movie's already out. Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah, but
hasn't that been made? Hasn't that been made with?
No. They haven't movies though. No, but
Real Steel was
Real Steel. That's what I'm talking about. It's already.
Been done. It was. You're right. But they said the Hot Wheels thing was gonna be like a gritty crime story, and you're like, what the?
Yeah.
For kids.
Magic 8-Ball. Ooh, spooky.
Yeah. How do you turn Uno into a movie?
That one confuses the hell out of me.
I know.
What they didn't tell you about Magic 8-Ball is that nothing has nothing to do with the toy, bro. It's actually just a bunch of people just slamming speed.
The writers from Squid Game do Uno.
Terrible. But I have one more that's on this list, and Matt can bring it up if he wants.
Go ahead.
Major Matt Mason, starring Tom Hanks. But then if you look at it, it says the writers are Akiva Goldsman and Michael Chabon. Are you out of your freaking minds?
The
Star
geniuses
Trek royalty
behind
right
Star
there,
Trek
bro.
Picard Season 1.
Wishbone.
I just can't. I can't.
I want to hear them say Akiva Goldsman and Michael Chabon in this sci-fi epic. You're like, okay, all right, here we go.
Wishbone, directed by the writers behind John Wick.
Oh god!
This time the dog gets revenge.
Like I want to be excited for Wishbone just because of the books, but at the same time, I've got no faith. That that's even going to make it to screen. I think they're going to like greenlight it, sit on it for a few months, and then just like, this is too stupid. Cut it.
Guys, Thomas and Friends, directed by Mark Forster, the World War Z and Monsters Ball director,
Oh, my
will helm a
Christ.
fantasy film based on the children's animated train series.
All right, here's how you can make it work. Have y'all ever seen
Now-
Major Payne?
Yes.
Okay, Major Payne, when he describes the little engine that could, and Charlie was all over the place, and he was bleeding out. Like, that's what we need from Thomas.
Let me break your finger. Let me break your finger.
And what really sucks,
Why?
what really sucks is that every one of these movies are going to make $1 billion, and I'm going to be infuriated when
No, they're not.
It's
They're not
gonna
making
be
$1 billion.
crazy.
I sure hope not.
Well, let me toss this to Krimson, because like this goes back to our adaptation discussion, where you have, instead of adapting books, you're adapting toys now and games. So like, is there a path to an actual Mattel cinematic universe that could actually be interesting as opposed to just insulting?
Look, I'm going through this list, and so many of these read like a joke. Like, I had to keep double checking that I'm not like on The Onion or Babylon Bee or something like that, some sort of a weird parody site. How the hell do you do anything with Uno? You can stretch things with Masters of the Universe, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, Hot Wheels. I can see a Polly Pocket movie. It's going to be insipid, and I'm not going to watch it, but I could see it existing.
It's going to be
Crimson,
the Pocket. And you're like, whoa, what is this?
Polly
Crimson.
Pocket and her pocket dimension.
Uno is going to be about the underground Uno scene. It's kind of like Rounders with Matt Damon and John Malkovich, but with Uno instead of poker.
Okay, so here's what I think is going to happen. Some of these are going to actually make it to production. Not many. We're probably less than half, because we got a list of 14 right here, and so many of these are stupid ideas. I feel like I'm watching a parody, and I'm the only one not in on the joke.
Yeah. It feels like almost like you're watching Idiocracy, and they're in the background they're playing the trailer for Uno by Quentin Tarantino, that kind of stuff. It's like a fake trailer,
Pocket
like
directed by Sam Peckinpah. That I would watch, but I think a number of these are going to make it to film, and for one reason or another, like Barbie is going to be a one-off success. The rest of these are going to do probably break even, maybe a little bit of a profit, but we're not talking a smash hit. And it's just going to slowly taper off from that. The idea of a Mattel cinematic universe, first off, that implies that these are all linked, and cinematic universes are just becoming so tiresome. Marvel, the pioneers of the concept, are dying because so many of their stories are so ludicrously intertwined with so many contradictory information at this point that it can no longer stand under its own weight. There's so little scrutiny that actually holds up to anything, such as Loki destroying the concept of free will within the universe.
I just
love it.
I just get so annoyed when we're looking at this kind of stuff. When I look at Krimson's bookshelf back there again, and there's all of these things that they can make really cool books and movies and series of, and yet we're talking about, man, I can't wait for that new movie about the board game Sorry to come out next year. It's going to be fantastic. I rolled a 12. I get to go again. Woo! It's going to be amazing. No,
You guys remember the Battleship movie? That was
Hey, I like that movie.
Brian, speaking of movies
I like that movie a lot, actually.
So it was, one of the movies on this list is a Masters of the Universe movie, and it recently came out that Kevin Smith mishandled the cartoon so much that Netflix canceled all the live action He-Man stuff. So basically, Mattel is like, okay, well, if Netflix isn't going to do it, I guess we'll do it ourselves. So, what's your take on the whole Masters of the Universe debacle?
I mean, that tracks, doesn't it? Though, right? Like Kevin Smith was so bad at his job that Netflix gave up. Like that totally tracks, man. I would have liked to have seen a live action He-Man, though. I'm not gonna lie. That would have been great.
What was interesting is that the people producing the He-Man live action version, they went to Netflix and they're like, hey, for $180 million, we're going to give you 2 He-Man movies. And Netflix looked at the ratings for the Kevin Smith animated version, and they were like, nah, we're good. So Kevin Smith is basically being blamed for, sinking He-Man and Masters of the Universe on streaming. And so now it looks like they're going to pivot back to actual movies to be released in theaters. Odin, do you think that any of these movies could replicate the success of Barbie?
The only one on that list, and it would still have to do quite a bit to do so, that I could think that could even come close would probably be Barney. And the only reason why I say that is because if you look at, the Barbie film, what did that film have going for it? A massive IP, right? We're talking about, the vast majority of women, especially in the United States, who have had at least one Barbie doll at some point in their life. That's a huge market share that you have, to be able to bring into a movie and bring into a theater, in addition to an incredible marketing campaign that was able to focus on certain things that really weren't the focus of the actual movie itself. So if you have something similar to that with Barney, you're still not going to get close to it because, as big of a name as Barney is, it's nothing close to where Barbie is as far as just name recognition itself. So I would say out of all these movies, you might have the only thing that they have going for them, if Mattel continues their relationship with this studio, is that they seem to be spending a reasonable amount of money on these things, right? When it comes to Barbie, for instance, the end cost to them was around $100 million, which is still a lot of money, but in today's Hollywood, where Disney's spending at least $200 million on every project they make, it's definitely much more feasible. So I think that because of that, you're still looking at movies that, even if they don't do, Barbie levels, because Barbie's well on its way to $1 billion, even if it only gets to maybe half of that, it would still be profitable from that. So, I mean, could it make it work? I think they could if they actually had the right people behind it. But I'm sorry, like, the fact that in any of these projects, Lena Dunham is attached to anything automatically makes me say, yeah, I don't see how this could possibly work.
Lena Dunham is horrible. Like, she's legitimately horrible.
There's only one thing she's good in.
Quit saying her name, please. You're making me.
And it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She has a very small part in it, and because she's barely in it, you barely even notice that she's there and that it's even her.
That scene where they shoot her in the head after she laughs?
No.
That was a good scene. I like that.
It's like Will Wheaton dying in that one movie. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, toy soldiers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, Vin Diesel is going to be in Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and Hot Wheels is going to be made by J.J. Abrams, according to Variety.
It makes total sense that he's gonna play both the Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah. There it is.
You will.
We haven't had that out in a while, have we?
I keep it locked and loaded just for such occasions. All right, guys. So we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. And before we get out of here, we've got one more super chat from Salty Superstar Bob Dorsey for $10. Game of Thrones theme, South Park edition. Yes, indeed. So everyone, thank you all so much for being here today. We really appreciate all the support. Odin from OMB Reviews, not dead naming you this time.
Yeah.
What do you got going on, and do you have any final thoughts?
So you can find me at OMB Reviews. I got a live stream tonight, 7 p.m., talking about the Barbenheimer box office because it's just dominating. And as far as any final thoughts are concerned, oh boy, if we thought that things were already bad because of, the Marvel fatigue and just the now it's like people are excited for Barbie, but now that we've basically greenlit Hollywood to take another random franchise, because at least with Marvel, it makes sense. With Star Wars, it makes sense to build up films and build up universes. Now you're getting a Mattel universe. What's going to be the next major toy brand that's going to then say, let's get us into the game now, right?
It's the new MCU, Odin.
Yeah.
Mattel Cinematic Universe.
But people are not going to last nearly as long because, again, I think that the MCU tired a lot of people out.
Yeah, totally.
I want to see him make a McDonald's franchise with all those characters.
Be great. McDonald's Cinematic Universe. Krimson, thank you for being on the show today. Do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Final thoughts, I'd say that we did a lot of complaining here, but I do think that there's plenty to still be positive about. There are plenty of good books out there, plenty of indie authors that people should check out. So do keep your eye out for that. As far as what I'm up to, I've got, you can catch me on my own channel, Crimson Rogue, where I review all sorts of really horrible books, including November 9th by Colleen Hoover, The Darling over on TikTok, Book Talk specifically. This book is so bad that I am under the impression that it is actually a psyop. And of course, I've got L. James's next book, The Misses, the very unnecessary sequel to the what should have deserved to be a flop, The Mister. I'm still waiting for the plot to start on that one.
Yes, good old L. James. For those of you out there who don't like to read or don't have time to read, Krimson's channel is amazing. You have to check it out. His videos where he kind of goes over really bad books. It's almost like Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst, but the book edition. And they're all very fun and informative, and I'm glad that he reads them so I don't have to. I get to enjoy his videos instead of reading terrible books, but definitely worth checking out. Brian from the Popcast, there was a story here that we didn't get to, but I wanted to get your final thoughts on it before we head out. It was confirmed this week that Sigourney Weaver is attached to the new Galaxy Quest TV show, and basically she's going to be playing a mentor, like Captain Janeway type, to a whole new crew of Galaxy Quest bridge crew. What's your take on that, and where can people find more of you?
First off, that is completely false. That story came from Giant Freaking Robot, and they just literally throw everything out there.
But they have trusted and confirmed sources, Brian.
They do. I mean, you know what really drives me nuts about that article you sent me is that they have like bold text in there, like at this time Paramount officially, and like Paramount's bold, like it's like, oh, that's a hyperlink. They're gonna show where Paramount did actually announced it, but it just goes to like their own page where they have the Paramount keyword, and you're like, motherfucker, like almost everything on their website is complete bullcrap. And the few times they've been right, it's because, and I believe this, if you throw enough crap out there, every once in a while, you get lucky.
Yep.
Like Ray
But
Brandon.
I looked into that, bro. Had that been the case, I would have had a video out already on that topic. I guarantee you. There's nothing out there for that. That's not happening. Plus, if they were talking about it for a long time, a Galaxy Quest show, and they were talking about Tim Allen, the entire cast coming back that's still alive. The reason they nixed it from the Amazon perspective when Amazon was going to do it was because that one guy died, and they were like the linchpin. So they did plan to bring it back. Simon Pegg got on board to pen it, but then even then, like 3 months later, Simon Pegg literally announced when someone asked him, he was like, "No, you know what? We haven't worked on that in a while. It seems like it's not going anywhere." So as far as we know, there's not much for Galaxy Quest. And there might not even be that much of a demand right now either. So I hope they do it. I hope they bring it back one day. But I don't want to bring it back in that weird giant freaking robot story. Like, oh, let's have this one character from the show mentor a new group of people, group of crew members. Yeah, like what are you, just copying Prodigy? Look, here's the deal. What you can do, if you want a new cast, so you can continue it past the one season, because they're not going to do more than one season. You can introduce the new cast in that season, right? Give them one last adventure. Our old characters, give them one last adventure. Introduce the new cast in that season, so that we are excited for the second season with the new cast. Guess what? Picard season 3 just did it. Most of those characters we want to see again, right?
Or just do it as a parody of The Next Generation instead of the original series.
Or you could just do that.
With the whole new cast. Matt Vader 74.
Yeah.
Are you dying?
I'm actually starting to feel better. I think I'm going to be okay.
Good.
Just don't show me pictures of Lena Dunham anymore, man. That really makes me
cause you to relapse.
Oh my God.
What do we got going on the channel this week?
Oh, hey, yesterday we just released our roundtable review of Rambo First Blood Part 2. I think that was a really fun discussion. We all liked that. It was really nice little flashback to the 80s there into my teenage years. Really love that movie. This week we got coming up, I think we're releasing our review of, well, first off, August is August Bites on the Salty Nerd podcast. We call it August Bites, where we celebrate all things sharks and vampires and
Anything
things with
that
teeth.
bites.
Anything that bites. So yeah, this week we're coming out with this really great movie on you can watch out there called The Black Demon.
Black Demon.
The Black Demon. Yeah.
Demon.
It's a shark movie. I'm I'm going to leave it at that. It's a shark movie. Thursday, we got our weekly Warrior review coming out. If you're not watching Warrior on Max, seriously, guys, you're missing out. It's one of the best things on TV right now. It really is.
Great show.
There's so much crap out there. This is one of the few gems that everybody should be watching. If you're
Based
not watching
on the writings of Bruce Lee.
Yeah. Brought to you by our friend JT, Jonathan
Tropper. Yeah.
Yeah. Tuesdays, we have our live stream at 2:00, just like this one, except it's on Tuesday from the studio. And we're welcoming a new kind of permanent cast member with Nadia from the Inside All Day podcast. She's going to be sitting in Jude's seat when Jude's not there. So welcome Nadia to the team. She's going to be there on Tuesdays with us, which is really cool. And I also just want to say one really quick thing that nobody seems to be talking about. We're not alone, guys. Aliens are real.
Oh, that's right. The aliens
They're
came.
They came.
We're so busy we're so busy trying to survive that the
I'm
government
so
announced
happy.
aliens and everyone just flinched.
It's
So
non-human, so it could be an animal then. Okay.
It's whatever. We're not alone.
It's a biological.
Non-human biologic
Yeah.
craft and non-human biologic things remains.
Yeah, everyone's so tainted that the
be a
government is
dog,
literally
could be
talking
a
about
bird.
UFOs.
Listen.
20 years ago, people have been freaking out about this. It's been for front page news, man.
Yeah, but it's been an interesting week in the Twitter world because of this stuff. I'm very passionate about
You
this
mean
stuff.
the X world?
In the X world, yeah, if you're on my Discord, if you're on our Discord, you know why I'm very passionate about this. I'm not going to get into it here, but I choose to believe. I choose to believe that there are other worldly people out there, and it was kind of an exciting thing that happened this week. So I'm kind of pumped for it, even if it is a psyop. So Matt, I'll leave it with you.
The Twitter files are now the X files, just so you know. And real quick, we got a $10 super chat from No Money G. Good to see you, No Money G. Great show today, guys. Watch out for those aliens and UAPs flying around. UAPs.
Unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yes. I believe a lot of people said that people were murdered to keep this stuff secret in the actual official testimony. You know, it's kind of interesting. Want to give a big shout out to everyone who dropped super chats for us today: Mexican Iron Man, Joker Voice, Bob Dorsey, Dinks, Scotty Dub, Gavin Blackburn, Neil, and No Money G. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. And in addition to that, we've also got a big shout out for the Nerds Talking podcast. Alex, Jude, and I guested on their Friday show, which came out yesterday. They're audio only, so if you guys want to check that out, you can go to Apple Podcast or Spotify or whatever your preferred podcasting platform is, and just search for Nerds Talking. They stole our logo, so like you can't miss them.
Just call them dirty logo thieves.
Yeah,
dirty logo thieves.
But we had a really great conversation with them. We're going to try to get them on one of our Saturday live streams coming up as well. But go check them out, subscribe to them. They're really good guys.
We most certainly are not going to do that.
So tune in next week, same salty time, same salty channel for even more salty Saturdays. I believe we've got some female guests coming up in the pipeline, so it won't be such a sausage fest anymore, at least for the next 2 weeks. But it'll be good. Be sure to check that out. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Salty Nerd YouTube channel. We're trying to get to that 15K point. It's a long, hard road, but I think we can do it with your help and support. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. And as always, stay salty, my friends.